Hi, my beautiful fashionistas. Welcome back to Yvonne Winifred UG. Today we are making this beautiful top or blouse with a basque effect at the front. And if you really want to know more, please stick around and you will see how all this beauty came into existence. It has a front zipper, as you've seen, and this beautiful kind of cuff sleeves as you're going to be seeing. So subscribe if you are new and let us start the video. So I have this piece of fabric that I'm folding into two like this, and to get this fabric along the width, I just used a quarter of the bust measurement that I'm working with, plus about 2 inches, having some ease allowance there and also the sewing allowance. And also for the length of this top, from this starting point at the top, I have about 19 inches up to down, and I added the sewing allowance at the hemline also, and this piece is going to be the back piece, and we are going to use this back piece to cut the front piece later. So we are starting off by marking the shoulder measurement, half of the shoulder measurement. In this case I have 8 inches, and I added half an inch to mark 8.5 inches, as the half inch is the sewing allowance. After that, the neckline width I marked is 3.5 inches, and I'm marking 1.5 inches for the neckline depth. So where the shoulder measurement stopped, I went down by 1 inch for the shoulder slope, and now I'm connecting like this. That is the shoulder slope, and now I am also carving the back neckline like that. So that is what we're going to be using for the back. So right away, I love adding half an inch on top of this shoulder slant, so that I don't forget that is the half an inch sewing allowance. So after that, guys, remember on top here, as the half of the shoulder measurement and the allowance, we have 8.5 inches. So I have to, show it up like that very well. So from the 1 inch shoulder slant, I'm going down by half of the armhole opening, which is 8 inches, and I've marked the chest line. So that is our chest line. It is different from the bust line. So I'm connecting to the top like that, and now along this chest line I want to mark a quarter of the bust measurement I'm working with, which is 38 inches. Dividing it by 4, I get 9.5, plus half an inch as the ease allowance, and I also added 1.5 inches as the sewing allowance, and I added 1.5 inches because I'll be using lining. So I'm getting the midpoint of this line here, as you've seen, which is 4 inches, and I'm now carving the armhole simply like this. This is the back armhole. It is a little bit different from the front armhole. So that is what we have so far. Now I didn't mark the waistline, but my full length at 19 inches, I'm just marking a quarter of the waistline plus half an inch is allowance. You can even add 1 inch is allowance, and I also added 1.5 inches for the sewing allowance, then connect like that. So this is the back piece, and I'm just going to cut out and use it to form the front piece. So that is it, just as you see. Simply, it is really simple like that. So that is how it looks like. Now let's use it to cut the front. So for the front, again, I have the back piece on top of another fabric. This is the fabric. It looks like this, and I'm also folding it into two, and we are marking at the wrong side. So guys, for this piece, I've marked the zipper allowance of about 1.5 inches at the front here, and I'm placing my back piece. The center back is at where that zipper allowance starts from, or which is the center front. So I think you're seeing. And also at the bottom, I added about 4.5 inches. That is what I want to add for the basque effect for only the front piece. So let me just mark that straight away, 4.5 inches for the basque effect at the bottom of the front piece, only the front piece. Then I'm also connecting like that and cut off the excess. So that is it for the front. Remember, at the front we are adding the zip allowance and the basque effect. So now I'm also notching where the neckline width is, where the shoulder sewing allowance is, and also this midpoint along the armhole, you know, and also the chest line. We have to use them for the front, so I have to I really have to mark them onto the front piece like that. That is where the chest line is. Remember, the chest line is different from the bust line. So now first of all, let us create the basque effect. So remember, we added 4.5 inches. So here where the allowance starts from, or where the center front is, I'm just curving to the sides simply as you see me. So you can make yours a little bit straight. Mine is a little bit curved, not very curved, but a little bit curved, just as you see, into the sides like that. Kindly leave the zip allowance at the hemline flat or straight. Don't curve it, because when you're sewing it will disturb you. So now I'm just cutting out. Remember, the back piece is on top of the fabric that we are using to cut our front pieces. So that is what I have, and now I can remove the back piece and complete my front. So first of all, I know where the midpoint is. I've moved in by 1/2 inch, and I'm going to recurve the front armhole just as you see, and now cut off the excess. So for the front, at the midpoint we moved in by 1/2 inch, but at the back we didn't move in by that 1/2 inch. So now guys, from also this neckline width at the top along the shoulder, I'm just going to curve from that shoulder width up to where the chest line is. By the way guys, at this point I made a mistake. I was supposed to curve up to where the zipper allowance starts from at the chest line. I corrected it later, as you're going to be seeing. So I wasn't supposed to do it like that, but you're going to see the correct thing. You can do that if you're not marking straight onto the fabric. If you're using patterns, you can do that, but if you're marking straight onto the fabric, please correct it as I did here. So what I did is, here where the zipper allowance is, that is where that front neckline is supposed to be, not at the zipper allowance. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to move up by 1/2 inch from the chest line. Remember, we marked where the chest line is, and then connect the curve properly like this, which is the neckline curve for the front. So that is where I'm supposed to cut. So cut like this from the zipper allowance into the neckline width like that. Please add allowances for the sewing. That's why I moved upwards from the chest line by 1/2 inch. So now this is what we have for the front. There are 2 pieces, and that will be the zipper allowance. So also for the sleeves that we are going to be using, again I'm folding a fabric into 2 like this, and for this sleeve length I'm using 25 inches in this case, and the sleeve will be ending at 23 inches. The 2 inches are just the sewing allowance at the top and also at the bottom for the elastic casing. So now guys, for the neck, for the width I'm working with, remember we used 8 inches for the half of the armhole depth. I just added 5 inches onto that, and also added about 1.5 inches as the sewing allowance. That is what I have, and it is about like 14.5 inches on fold for this sleeve, and I'm going to use this one sleeve to cut another sleeve after. So now randomly I just marked from the top about 5 inches and drew this cap's height line, and now I just randomly carved out kind of an S like that and cut it out for my sleeve. Yes, and notched the midpoint. Then also that will be all, since we are going to add elastic at the bottom. But if you want it a little bit shaped, measure your wrist measurement and multiply it by 3. In this case mine was 4, so 4 times 3 I get about 12 inches. And I also add some sewing allowance, but I don't want to do that. I'll just use that sleeve just as it is, and I'm going to use this sleeve to cut another sleeve. So now guys, we get to the sewing part. So for the sewing, I don't have black lining or any other color lining. I use the same fabric for the linings. So for the linings, I just duplicated my front back pieces and got the same, it's all the same fabric, and I'll be sewing just as you've seen. Let me show you how I'm going to be sewing from the front piece. So I'll get 2 pieces for each side. Remember, I'm using the same fabric for the facings or the linings. I'll sew along the necklines and into the center front and the center back, then into the hemline, then to the sides again like that. I will leave the shoulder and the armhole open when sewing. So remember, I have 2 pieces for each. If you have your black linings, use those. So this is it after the sewing the back piece. I've sewed along the sides, the hemline, and on top along the neckline, and I cut notches before changing it to the right side. So here we are seeing the right sides. And now for the front pieces also, this is what we have. Yes, by the way, it is so great to iron everything so that it is pressed down very well after every sewing. So now this is the front, and this is the other part of the front. Yes, that is how beautiful they look like. Now I want to join the 2 along the shoulders by 1/2 inch. So I'm opening up my pieces. I make sure the lining is facing the lining and the main fabric is also facing the main fabric, and I make sure that joining all where the neckline stopped are aligning very well. Then I'll sew by 1/2 inch to join the back to the front. So I'm going to do that at the sewing machine, and this is what I got after. So this is where I joined, and it is a neat finishing. As you see, all the sewing is inside, and there was some excess, guys, as you're seeing along the curve there. I think you're seeing that there is some excess at the front pieces. Don't worry about that. If you find it on yours, just cut it off, just the way I will do also. So after cutting off that excess, guys, what I'm going to do is to bring my sleeves for either sides, then place it right sides facing each other. The sleeve right side facing our top, and make sure I make pleats at the top here with the excess that we added of 5 inches, and then sew up the other ends simply like that. So the excess will be at the top of the sleeve or of the armhole where the shoulders join. So now this is what we have. I've pleated just as you see, and that is what we have. It has formed kind of some curve, and that is how beautiful it looks like. I'll have to serge the inside or overlock all the inside later. So I've joined one of the sides. I started from the sleeve into the sides, just as you see. The side, we have just 1 inch for the sewing joining allowance at the side, and I'm going to repeat that also for the other sleeve. By the way, my fabric was not enough. I had to join one of the sleeves, so it is joined just as you've seen. So I'll sew from the sleeve into the side of the top like that, or from the side into the sleeve like that, making sure that everything is aligning together. I'll sew by 1 inch, since we already used half of an inch already. So now this is what we have. And also, guys, by the way, I created an elastic casing of about 3¼ inches, and I left somewhere where my elastic will be passing along the sleeve hemline. So my elastic is ½ inch, and I just measured around the wrist measurement, and that is what I have, and that is as the length, and that is what I'll be passing all around the sleeve hemline like that, and it will be gathered up like that, and we'll have a beautiful top as you're going to be seeing later like that. So now also for the zipper, I used this zipper that opens up into two. So you have to first measure from down how your zipper will be, open it up a part of it, and then fold the other part inside just as you've seen me do, and then start sewing. So I think you're seeing it's the zipper that opens up into two. That is the best zipper to use to such a project. So that is what I'm going to do, attach the zipper, and afterwards, guys, this is how beautifully the top looks like. So this is the zipper at the front. That is the Basque effect, and I'm loving what I'm seeing, guys. I think you are loving what you're seeing too. So after adding the elastic, I think you're seeing the sleeves so beautiful. That is the Basque effect at the front. At the back, it is shorter, just as you see. I love what I see. It is so beautiful. I can wear it as a top, I can wear it as a jacket. You know, it is free. I can just style it up the way I want. So comment below what you think about this top. Will you make yours? And I think I'll be seeing you soon.